based on a talk you gave at World Tea Expo last year.
Sure.
What can the specialty tea business take from the coffee's third wave?
So yeah, we could talk about that for quite a long time. Actually, that was almost the whole of my talk at World Tea Expo.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was, what can we take from this? And the big points are, we can see, one, the trend, the success of third wave coffee, and that it proves there is a market for this very expensive, but also carefully sourced, meticulously, all the information about sourcing is presented as added value. This product, which differentiates itself by both the quality of its sourcing and sort of its purity as well. Its third wave marks itself as different from, say, the second wave or espresso bars, is being focused on the purity of the product. It's not like a matcha, caramel latte, right? That's the innovative product. The innovative product is that it's a cup of coffee that's carefully guided from origin, from production, through its supply chain, and finally prepared and brewed and presented with trying to preserve its integrity the whole way through. This market out there, and a significant one. I think that's an important guidepost for us in tea, right? And what can tea become, and what can a small tea business do to survive in a market that's quickly saturating? How can we differentiate ourselves? Those are the same questions that coffee entrepreneurs were faced with the ascendancy of large chains like Starbucks or Peet's Coffee, which were upping their quality game. They couldn't do, or just weren't equipped to do the same sorts of things that say one of these third wave shops, sort of the slow food emphasis, if you will, right? The quality of the product over the expediency. Seeing that that this model worked for a good number of companies in coffee, and seeing that there's consumer demand for it, and also the expectation now for us in tea, it's sort of informed by that. People are coming into specialty tea shops. Perhaps they've been exposed to very good coffee, and now they're curious about very good tea. In no small part because those very good coffee shops are interested in carrying very good tea, and are seeking out teas that have the same sort of value orientation, both in terms of quality, but also in terms of its, the care that's been sourced and the way the information has been preserved about the product. And so there's tremendous opportunity, both in terms of learning that and being able to imitate it, but also work within third wave coffee shops as really natural partners if you're doing that kind of tea as a tea business. The thing that really drove the talk, which drove the idea, drove me to notice third wave coffee, was I realized that in the United States, at least, I think the most interesting tea that I was finding out in cafes wasn't in tea shops. It wasn't in like a dedicated tea shop. It was actually in coffee shops that were carrying this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is strange, right? But third wave coffee shops, right? Again, in trying to source this product that has the same values, the same sense of purity, if you will, as their coffee, they were willing to take risks with products that were quite expensive, right? But promised and delivered an experience like their coffees, which is, it's retained its the character of its origin, of its traditional processing style. You're able to communicate to the customer what makes this special. Whereas for a new business coming into the tea world in the United States, there's real hesitancy to take on the risk of carrying those teas. They're expensive. There requires a little bit of like education to the consumer. This is why it's special, right? They're harder to sell than, say, like a flavored, blend. In coffee shops, though, they were taking those risks, and you would find those teas.
Because they're taking the same risk with their third wave coffee as well.
They have, and they've seen its success. that risk that they'd
Yeah.
taken was sort of a necessity, right? Because you had to differentiate yourself from, say, you couldn't from Starbucks. And in the United States, we're sort of there too in tea shops. We have to differentiate ourselves from sort of the same sort of major wholesalers out there, and not to be too down on flavored tea, but it's a way of sort of homogenizing inventory. You can replicate it with the same flavors added to. There's a I think broader in the food scene in the United States, elsewhere in the world too, of course. But there's a joke. There's the sketch comedy show Portlandia it's a show from the U.S. where one sketch is about a couple trying to eat a chicken in a restaurant. They want to order a chicken, and they have all these questions about where the chicken came from, and ultimately it leads them, leaving the restaurant table, the waitress driving them down to the farm to meet the chicken, and have this experience, this pastoral experience with the chicken and the farm, and so that it's already passed into the realm of parody here, that consumer mentality, but it's something that exists, and people want to see that sort of information and have that sort of confidence in your food. Tea and coffee, no exception.